about solar energy and alternative energy, because that was part of our local effort, was to promote that. Solar, not Zimmer, he still got his button, yeah, and it's really something. When I was in Washington, D.C., working for the Nuclear Information Resource Service, Ronald Reagan had just been elected, and he got rid of all the solar panels on the White House, and he also, that Jimmy Carter had installed, and he also started dismantling the whole solar alternative fuel energy department aspect of the energy department, and putting all these people that were experts in that stuff out of jobs, pushing them. If they were civil service employees, he couldn't necessarily fire them, but he was definitely not letting them use any of their expertise. And not only that, but he sent around letters to all these nonprofit groups in in Washington, D.C., which we were included, saying that we were all communists. We were a communist front, if we were promoting solar energy, and also called us Luddites. Like the solar energy advocates are the Luddites, because atomic energy was the future. Yeah, so it was just, so many people don't know the full truth, as we all know here, about Ronald Reagan and what Reagan did.
Along the same lines, and to bring things up to the present, and in keeping with what you just described, I was able to download documents in preparation for this. And in 1980, there was a public hearing that the NRC judges held to hear pros and cons of Zimmer. And of course, we had some of our cast of characters here speaking. But we also had, and this is interesting, the Claremont County Chamber of Commerce speaking. And they were speaking, of course, in favor of Zimmer going online, but I want to quote what they said here. It's a couple of sentences. "We understand the Ford Foundation recently sponsored a study that shows that a new coal-fired furnace plant, which, I'm trying to read here, meets all current environmental standards, produces an estimate of 2 to 25 fatalities per year, and we have yet to take into consideration the well-publicized greenhouse effect. If you don't know it, the scientists theorize that carbon dioxide, which would be poured into the atmosphere by burning coal, imagine that, would form a shield in the inner atmosphere, which would keep the heat from escaping." This is 1980 in the Chamber of Commerce. "We understand that they speculate that if the phenomenon did happen, it would increase the Earth's temperature, causing such interesting consequences as the melting of the polar ice caps and subsequent flooding of all coastal lands on Earth." That was 1980. That's the Chamber of Commerce.
That is so cool.
In favor of solar, well, against coal-fired fossil fuels, but.
That's great. Wow, John, that's fantastic. I love it. So here's a little anecdote, sort of post-Zimmer, about you never can tell where things will lead when you develop a relationship with folks, okay? So in 1985, that was the last year I was in Citizen Action, all of us staff had to canvass for the rent, we were in the IBEW building next to the Williams Y on Victory Park in East Manila. So I was in Claremont County, going door to door, and I knocked on this lady's door, and she was about my height, real small, and very wired and very energetic. And she said, I'd love to stay in touch with you because there's a lot of things I want to do to make things happen here in our township, Pierce Township, I guess it was. And so she said, there's a big problem with the coal ash at Beckjord. And I'm increasingly involved with a group called NOPE, right? Right? Neighbors opposed to pollution.
Pit expansion.
Yeah. Right. So I said, fine, happy to keep talking to you about it. So over time, she kept giving me calls once every couple of weeks. What do you think about this? I'm thinking about doing that. So I'm sort of like her advisor on this effort. It was Gene Schmidt. And Gene Schmidt ended up becoming this right-wing member of Congress. Well, she got elected to township trustee, and then she became a member of Congress, of course. She was like, and then she got defeated by Brad Wenstrup eventually. But she was like about the most right-wing, anti-choice conservative that you could possibly imagine. But she gave a damn about the coal tar, whatever it was, you know, the pits in her backyard. So every time I see her today, she keeps hugging me and keeps telling people, yeah, it was Brewster who got me involved in politics. I'm like, oh my God.
That actually, as I